Well, Tony, we're back to pick up where we left off with Chris. We've learned some very interesting stuff about Chris's backstory and some of his big life moments. Let's get back into it. You didn't have to, you as a person didn't have to have your faith to be vanilla, to be straight and narrow.
Right.
That's interesting to me.
I did that well.
That is so interesting to me because, well, I'm not going to say because, but I will say it's very interesting to me that you were what most people are after they have this transformative experience. You were just living this life.
I was like a politician back in those days.
That's cool. That's crazy. That's cool.
Because I was like, I am the courts kid.
It's cool for me because, we're going to unpack the rest of your story.
Right.
And
I get an image of that back then.
I know that story, and I know that the life you have now inside of that moral compass is so much more badass and great than it was before you did. So that's really interesting for me to hear.
I guess what I learned was that, like, just because that you were following Jesus didn't mean you had to be perfect or you had to or polish something.
That's cool.
Or
That's cool. I like that.
Wear a collared shirt or something. Like
so wear a collar like Tony.
Well, he doesn't have a collared shirt on.
I know, but he usually does.
It's interesting though. So this newfound perspective that you had in looking back, how did that make you feel?
Yeah, I mean, at the time I was just I think part of it was like I understood the cost. Right, it was just like, okay, I'm going to do this thing and I'm all in. And so looking back on it now, there was definite ways I could have done this more intelligently, but I don't regret it because what I did was I actually just jumped into that ministry. And not only that, but my faith. So I was like, soaking in like everything that I could at the time. You know what I mean? Just like a sponge.
On fire.
I was on fire and it was great. And, so I ended up leading in that ministry for 7 or 8 years. But in that time, I like checked all responsibility to everything else in life. I didn't go to college. I didn't. Yeah. I was like, this is what I'm doing. This is all that's important. I don't care about anything else. Thank God Lisa went to college.
Right. So this woman, Lisa.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So looking back on it now, it was great experience, still in it, I get, but like that ministry was fantastic. We're 20, call it, I'm 20 years old, 21 years old. I also had this looming thing on the back of my mind. I need to reconcile the relationship with my dad. That's still there, not rekindled,
Yeah.
Been there.
So that was just kind of always hanging on. And
so let's talk a little bit about college before you get into that.
Very
moment
much to talk about.
Yeah. So,
but Lisa was in college. This girl you were still dating was in college, and you weren't. But you were serving this ministry and doing other things. You probably had odd jobs and stuff. So, I mean...
But was there no relational pressure or social pressure for you to go to college and be that guy?
From the community I grew up in, college was like it was such a low percentage, I think, of people that I graduated with went and finished college.
Were they farmers or were they... We're
not all farmers out there.
No, so,
they were all
Tony
farmers.
Just doesn't.
No, they were farmers.
Yeah, I mean,
the first band I was in, we called ourselves the Pointy Farmers. I don't. I still don't understand that, but
the
Pointy Farmers.
So
that's a great question. There wasn't a lot of social pressure. I didn't feel that. It was kind of part of it just felt part of the norm. You know, and again, like looking back on it, I think there were things, whether or not I wanted to go to college, I probably could have done something that would have helped me set off in a better, footing or something for when I wanted to get into professional life. But I just didn't care at the time.
And Lisa was cool? She's like, oh, whatever.
I don't know what she was thinking. I don't know what she was. I mean, Lisa is so much more driven. Like, I mean, you see me, I'm pretty just like, whoa, hey. But she is way more driven.
I just came off of my helicopter and I'm going to come into this podcast. You're just chill.
She's second generation German, stoic.
That is just true, yeah.
Second generation.
So like so she was very driven. She knew what she wanted to do. She's obviously super smart.
Right. Because at some point she needs to take over the world.
Yeah.
Right. Or at least generation Germans.
Drag this hillbilly.
One thing led to another.
It's fitting. My family's German. I mean, I recognize the fur line when I see it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I don't know what I mean. So
Guten Morgen, Fraulein.
Guten Morgen. We having sauerkraut again?
In Soviet Russia, road fork you.
She went to school. She was, she did great. I was doing weird things. I was working at like a frozen yogurt shop or, cleaning company, or I don't know, just weird things, and nothing with like a career in mind. So at one point I thought, oh, this, I'm not, I should probably start thinking about that because I'd like to marry this girl. She's only getting more blonde and only more taller.
Yeah, she's just getting more perfect.
Yeah, yeah.
So
And smarter.
I
Smarter and
actually
smarter.
I actually went to a semester at a Christian college, and again, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was like a renaissance. I just liked to do a lot of things. I wasn't great at a lot of things.
Yeah.
So I went to a semester at a Christian college here, and I had a writing professor. I had 2 writing courses with this guy in the same semester, and at one point in like a mid-year review, he was like, I really enjoyed it. I loved it. I wrote some story about how me and my dad were working on a boat or something, and I don't know, but he eventually was just like, "What do you want to do in your life for a job?" And I was like, I don't know. I just figured I have to have a degree to do it. That's just what I thought you had to do. And he was like, well, what is it you want to do? I was like, I don't know. Something creative, maybe write or something, copy, or I don't know what I want to do. He was like, you don't have to have a college degree to do this. I was like, oh, okay.
Just go do it.
And he kind of did the raise the eyebrow thing. Just go do it.
You got to do it, and you got to fail and have somebody edit it, and then you get better.
I was like, all right, cool. So
how old were you at that point? Roughly?
This is right around 21, right around that age.
So you're starting to kind of form a vision for your future, or you're searching for a vision
for
your
something.
future. Yeah.
And so this is also about the time I start rekindling the relationship with my dad, actually. And to give him credit, he's the one who actually reached out to me first. And so that is a process that's still ongoing to this day, and ironically, my dad is not that much older than me, in hindsight, right? He's a young guy still in my eyes.
Only 3 years older than you.
He's only 3 years older. Dan, have you ever met him?
Yeah, I've met Ray Quartz once.
Okay. He's funny because he's just like me.
No, I've never met Ray Quartz. It was more like a wave.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
He's just older. So like, now like our relationship, it's just like we're very similar. We have a very similar comedic humor. Lisa, my wife, hates it when my dad and I just hang out because it just becomes annoying to her. But because like we're cut from it's just whatever. It's almost like we're related.
It's almost like we're father son. It's almost like we're father.
So we start rekindling this and start working on it, and it's definitely work, and it's still work. But like I was also like, hey,
I mean, was he hurt? Was he
for sure? And I would assume he still is, and I would assume my mom still is. What was interesting though was because I was a believer now, I had this new faith about me. I was like, I still feel this way. I was like, I'm sorry, what I did was wrong back there years ago. Like I know it. I hurt you. Things were rough. But I don't know how to describe it to you other than like I'm a new person now, and I think that's still hard for people to understand that concept. But for me, it was just important to like I want that relationship back. I'm his only child, and biologically like, so I want that. I know he wants that. So we started working on that. And then Lisa and I got married pretty young too.
How old were you?
22.
Oh, I beat you.
Her dad said you can't get. He told her you can't get married till you graduate. She graduated in May of 2010
from college.
She graduated from college in April of 2010. We got married in May of 2010.
Wow. Yeah, so my wife and I got married.
You got May eventually.
We did get May. That's our kid of ours, Maybird. We got married in September of 2009. We just were, you know what I mean? Like, we got to get it done. We got to do this thing.
I know this guy's going to come in my life, Chris Quartz. I got to be up on him.
I got to beat him at some point.
Yeah. We get married.
10 years later, I'm going to meet this guy.
We get married. We're young. And at this time, work-wise, I just kind of started jumping into like some really entry-level agency job stuff.
Yeah.
And this was for like really kind of centered around writing, really. It was for initially like my work, like where I was initially like looking in professionally was search engine optimization or SEO practices, right? So I was writing, content for building links and doing these things for these different companies and trying to. It's all actually still pretty fascinating to me, but it was all just very entry level stuff,
So you were writing content with the hooks embedded.
That's right.
So that the searchers would.
You got it.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Some manipulation of the internet is what I like to call
keywords.
it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Blah blah blah. Centralization.
It's like a hashtag. At the end of the day, it's like a hashtag.
Buzzword. Internet.
So when so whoever's listening to this, if you're above 40, when your daughter posts something on Instagram
on
and
TikTok.
or on TikTok. Dang it. If you're above 50 and your daughter posts something on Instagram,
Yeah.
because she won't be, your daughter, if you're above 50, won't be on TikTok. And she puts a hashtag on it. That's pretty much the same thing.
God dang it. It's actually the same thing now.
Hold on. I'm throwing a flag here because I'm 53 and my daughter's on TikTok all
Tic Tacs. She's got them Tic Tacs.
Coming out the new Skittle.
Dang. But you know what I mean. So I
Yeah.
hear that. I only say that because I hear that the new generation, they're so anti.
Them kids.
No, and I don't want to ostracize
You
anybody.
said it.
But my generation definitely is the generator and the proprietor of the hashtag. So, but it's essentially
Yes.
the same thing. What you were
Welcome.
doing is you were creating keywords in a
Yep.
paragraph form so that when people typed in whatever,
So boring.
it would
Yeah.
flag.
I hate that stuff.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
look back on it now. I'm like, it's so boring. It's interesting,
But then you got into the exciting stuff and creative, right?
yeah. So I was again like I don't know how else to say it other than just like there is a level of luck that I have for sure, and some would call it luck. Others would call it luck. I guess that's a
Others would call it luck.
that's a Happy Gilmore quote. No, I would call it it's luck, and it's also I can't.
Some
skirt-
people call it luck. Some people call it fate. Some people call it karma.
I can't skirt around it. Like God has been great to me. You know what I mean?
Oh.
Like in an undeserving way. When you write down my attributes on a piece of paper, you would think well, this guy's homeless for sure.
This guy's and he's bearded.
Just before we get to those,
Right.
yeah.
It's
So
a pile of skin.
I got really lucky in the sense that like there was people who believed in me, and again in this agency life, I started kind of just working the way up, right? To eventually I was writing copy, then I was project managing, then I was producing content, like actually doing some junior
Yeah.
creative, and I felt like for a minute there I was like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I love telling stories, and I think stories is something that's been a huge part of my life. Again, this is like this huge draw for me to music. I think even to this day, people get annoyed with me. But when I was a kid, I remember listening to a song over and over again. It would be something obscure, like old classic rock song that my dad gave me or something. And I would go to school and be like, the Stones album, Bridges to Babylon? You know what those songs are about?
And people are like, no, what the heck?
Yes.
So you're working for these
Love
kind of
stories.
like you're working for these kind of
Agencies.
agency jobs,
Yep.
and
And
then
not making very much money.
No.
And also, Lisa and I are pretty newlywed, but we also said, hey, we want to have kids. I feel like the younger we are, the more we're like, we kind of want them now.
the younger we are, the harder we fall.
harder we fall.
So hold
yeah.
on, let's rewind a little bit. So you're working agency jobs, and
And you're kind of living it sounds like you're in this cool profession, no degree, but you're in a white collar industry. You're kind of in the cool side of the white
And
collar
this is when like
industry.
millennials are like, we're gonna make businesses our way. We're gonna put a ping pong table, and you know what I mean. It was like that kind of life where we were like, we're gonna reinvent, and so that's kind of what it was.
I remember going to agencies and like they would have this cool little bar area.
Yeah.
And they would have like a tap and people would like after work have these like creative
Right.
thought
We had
sessions.
beer
and tap
Fridays.
on
you
and-
worked for every one of those in Cincinnati.
That's
That's
exactly
so
right.
great.
We had a
Chris.
masseuse that would come in. I'll never forget
Nice.
one of
Of
my
course
you did.
one of my biggest clients ever during this, and I was again super privileged, was USAA, right? The military insurance
Oh,
company,
yeah.
based out of San Antonio. So they came in to like visit us one time, and they were just like shocked at like our office, and because they had never seen anything like it. And to me, it was just like,
I'd been to that office. I know what you're talking about.
dude. So they came in and they were like, we don't. I was like, what do you guys want? A beer, iced coffee? What do you guys need? And they were like, nothing. And so, but it makes sense to me because then, like, when I went down to visit them, it's an armed guard that is at the gates.
Yeah, right.
And like, you can't get in without clearance from Dick Cheney or something. It's
Yeah.
like,
yeah, and you're like, do you guys want some Spro and maybe a beanie?
yeah.
bros, you guys are like zero chill here.
Yeah, right.
Like, dude,
Where's the
this
ping
is
pong
so
table?
chill.
We can't shoot
So
basketball
chill.
in the office.
And during this time, working for these different agencies, I definitely brushed up on things that I was like, I've been into the story thing really hard. And I was like, oh, like I'm seeing big companies fail because they are not telling the right stories. And I'm seeing startup companies put their entire marketing budget for the year into like a video for 30 seconds. They've got a better handle on what they're doing and the story they're telling. Anyway, to me, that was like a big mile marker of
So
like,
give us a range. So you're working for And this is probably I've been in a position where it's like I feel like I'm making pennies, but I also feel like a high roller because of who I'm with
Sure.
and what I'm and or what I am making as far as the product and what what it looks like when customers come to see customers or whoever you're
Right.
serving when they come into the office and see things like they don't know that I'm making pennies. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
So give us a range and then give us like what was the most exciting part about being there? Because I can imagine it probably wasn't the salary.
Yeah, that's true. So yeah, so I think the exciting thing about being there was it just felt like we were happening and doing something really cool and new. Like so,
Yeah, so you guys are on the front end of the
Yeah.
of bringing the client into a story.
and not even that. Like,
Yeah.
hey, we've got a new creative way to tell a story for you. It's an animated video. It's
And
like
people
it
were
was
like, "What?"
mind bending at the time, right? But it was very. I felt very lucky. I was uneducated. My first job ever was shoveling horse shit on a farm. So it's not like I expected a whole lot. And then I can remember I could take you to the spot in the building where the first time I ever like somebody offered me a salary, and I was like, whoa, honey, go ahead and get the guac on your Chipotle because
Yeah.
Daddy just got a salary.
We're getting a
offer.
credit card.
I've got a fixed income.
Remember those iPads that just came out? Let's put one on layaway.
Let's put one on layaway, baby.
We're
Yeah.
coming for you.
That's a huge thing, though. Let's not gloss over it. The fact that you have been in this hustle mentality, and then all of a sudden somebody says, I'm going to give you this amount of money this year, and you get a percentage of it every 2 weeks.
Yes,
That's
exactly.
a huge thing for somebody who's young, who's married. Like, it doesn't matter if you're getting $600 every 2 weeks. It's you're getting that amount. You don't have to,
$600 every 2 weeks.
right?
Whoa.
But you know what I mean, right? Like you're getting that amount. You don't have to work. You don't have to work harder or whatever. Like you can have a healthy work life. You could take time if you need to, or
Yep.
whatever, because you're getting a salary. You're getting paid everything.
Well,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I remember the moment that I got my first business cards. Like I'd reached the point in the company where I literally got like a business card. I had like a title.
From the company, they
Yes.
gave you business. So correct me if I'm wrong, but now that feeling comes with like you get a like for me it's dan.cress@suchandsuch.net
Yeah.
or suchandsuch.com, and you get to forward that around. You know what I mean? Like that's the new business card. That's
yeah.
like that you've solidified. It's not just
Like
like,
the LinkedIn thing on your.
yeah, it's not just like copyright at whatever.com. Like you're actually a person at this
Oh no,
server for this one.
like when I got my first cards, I was literally we went to visit a friend of a friend in school who was there for like 6 or 7 years or something like that. So I think we're at Ohio University, and I'm handing out my business cards to chicks. I'm like yeah,
herpes.
check me out.
You're handing those business
I'm
cards
a
out like herpes.
successful business guy. Got a card.
I'll
Yeah.
never forget. That's like a dream of mine. I just wanted a business card. Just like I don't know
But-
why. I don't know what qualified you to get one, but I always wanted a business card.
But that was uncool when you were.
It was uncool. And what I did was I found, I think it was like Staples that would print business cards. And so like I had business cards in high school printed that just said my name on it.
In high school.
That was it. And then my shtick is what I would do is I would secretly put one in like a girl's purse when they like walked by, or I would stick them in like my teacher's pockets when they were like helping people.
Who is
And
this
just because I wanted that shock of somebody later being like, what the hell is this?
Is this piece of cardboard paper?
I should have put something else on it besides my name because then it was obvious who was doing it. But
The question is, what font did you use?
it was like a cursive. Yeah, I
Oh,
wanted
yeah.
it to look cool.
You wanted it to look like an R. Kelly lyric.
I wanted some girl to be like, wow, he's sneaky.
Wow.
He can put things in my
Wow.
purse without me knowing.
My mind's telling me no.
Wait a minute. Where's my wallet?
Where's my wallet? Wait a second.
Why is his grades changed?
This guy's so cool. He stole my
probably
wallet
won't.
and left
Guy
a
is
calling
so
card.
cool.
I bet he's great at football.
So you're working for these agencies.
Working for these agencies, and here's the other thing that's happening during this time too. Lisa, smart, educated, wonderful.
Who's now your wife?
Yeah, so now we're married. And we were then too, by God. And
Yeah.
she decides, and this was not an easy decision, but she's going to stay at home and birth out some children for us.
Whoa.
Right.
And this is also when I'm handed my first salary. And
You're on top of the world, man.
God, just
Go ahead.
living it.
Freaking
I had a
Kevin
house. It was
Kevin
700
McAllister
square feet.
beating Trump in the towers.
But
and
like
you're-
but the thing at the time, my salary was just like pennies. I look back on it now, I'm like, how did we do that? But it was such a blessing at the time. But
Yeah.
let's call it a price range between 25K and 30K.
Woo!
That's a-
pretty big range.
It was,
so you made $27,000.
it
a
was
year that year.
wild.
Wow. Nice.
But it was
That's
also
now
very
that's
stressful.
your Red Bull budget. That is now your Red
That's
Bull
an
budget.
Aldi bill.
Yeah.
So
and was the attitude at work like you're lucky to be here? I mean, that you're in the industry.
That's a good question, Tony.
That's a
Like,
great
how did you feel
question.
about it? Because I've been a young guy in a creative industry, and feeling like it doesn't matter what I'm getting paid. I'm just lucky to be here.
Yeah.
And that's I think
that's a great question.
that's a good spot to be in, but it's also like a really shitty spot for an employer to put somebody in.
The problem with me, and I feel like this is something I carry with me even today, is like I'm lucky to be here. And now what I don't think happens.
You're lucky to be in this podcast.
I'm lucky to be in Kentucky. I legally only have another 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Then I gotta go.
Right.
Yeah, because
We need to see your-
too long.
We can validate your parking before you leave.
Yeah.
I didn't. I think I put that pressure on myself, and I think there's a healthy balance of it, and there's an unhealthy balance. I don't feel like maybe early on in those years, I felt maybe a little bit from bosses like, you're lucky to be here. We're giving you a
Yeah.
great opportunity. But then after a while, I think maybe I believed that, but I also had to like, here's the thing is like, I legitimately wasn't the smartest guy in the room. I wasn't the most creative. And I'm not just saying that, like, but I actually had to work a lot harder to like do just
Yeah.
as equal work as others
Wow.
were doing.
Okay.
Right.
What?
I know.
Yeah, so
And I
is
didn't
that-
because I didn't have a degree to fall back on, or I didn't have like
Yeah.
I'll just go back and lead, I'll go back and shovel horse shit. I don't know.
That's obviously not like a new revelation when you're 20, whatever. So tell us about that. I mean,
So,
you're not
yeah.
the smartest. You're not in your opinion, you're not the smartest. You're not the funniest. You're not the most equipped, but you're going to work the hardest. Tell us
Well,
about that.
and were you comparing yourself to others? So were there others there that had come out of the art institute or whatever and blah?
For sure. Or they had marketing degrees or
Yeah.
animation degrees, or they were like, I mean, legitimately some of the most amazing artists I've ever seen, or whether they were account people or something like that. I was just like, these are next caliber people. And so
Yeah.
also around this time, we're also talking about having kids, and we started having kids, and that unlocks another layer of just like, oh, I have to do this now.
Yeah, right,
It's not
sure.
even just me and my wife that could just eat ramen every night. Like,
Yeah.
there is that extra layer of, and of course I wanted to like provide for her, but like, especially when you start having kids, you're just like, oh, that turns on, for me at least, it like turned on the gas of like, if I'm working this hard just to keep up, I gotta work even harder to like get ahead,
Yeah. So and the fact that you're owning more and more responsibility,
Exactly.
right?
With
And
more,
now,
there's more pressure, right?
yeah, and now there's people, your wife's at home, you got a baby on the way, and there's people that are literally going to starve to death if you don't
Yep.
keep it up.
That's exactly right. And and at the same time too, I was like having a blast with it. I really was enjoying the work.
Oh, good. That's fun.
And so that at least helped. So yeah, we started having kids. We have my oldest son is 8 now. So we're talking 8 years ago. His name is Bear.
Yep, like his dad, a big old bear.
Oh, Bear. I've got a bear tattoo on my arm here. This is actually a pretty interesting dream that I had, but that's why we named him Bear, was from this dream. So let's edit that out. That's very weird.
Yeah, we'll get it. We got it. So his name's Bear. That's great. That's really cool.
His name's Bear.
Yeah.
And so we have him, and then another 18 months later we have, and so remind you, we wanted to have kids at a young age, and we wanted to have them all at once. Rip
So
off
you
the
could get it
Band-Aid.
done. Yeah, get it done.
Rip off the Band-Aid. All 3 of our kids are 18 months apart to the day.
Plus, it's fun making them, right?
Well,
I mean,
So, but hold on. Let's rewind a little bit. And I know. So
Let's unpack that.
yeah, let's circle back. Let's unpack that. I know you've told me this story before, and I don't want this to seem too rehearsed, but I want to make sure that everything, the most interesting.
How many bobbins have you had?
Two, I want to make sure that the most interesting parts are told. Okay, so let's talk about Bear. When you had Bear, so a pretty significant thing happened in your life. I mean, It's like, okay, my wife's pregnant, she's about to pop, and then what happens?
I think what you're thinking of is probably the
Yeah.
story that comes with Hank.
Yeah.
Later,
A little later on.
Oh my gosh.
Nothing interesting happened when I had Bear.
Okay.
Nothing.
Well, there was
off.
probably a lot of interesting stuff.
Nothing different out of my life
Great.
changed.
So we'll cut that out.
Yeah.
Except for changing diapers. And,
except for he was terrible.
So you
except for your entire life turned upside down. But nothing really interesting.
Well, I have Bear. I have Bear. Again, she's staying at home, and I'm working. Still these same kind of agency jobs. We have my daughter 18 months later, Jolene, and
Jolene.
Jolene.
Yeah, she's named after the song.
Jolene.
It's okay.
Everybody always says, "Don't you know she's named after the other woman in that song?" No, I have never listened to that song. Oh,
Does Jolene have auburn hair?
She does
doesn't,
not.
unfortunately.
Oh my god,
Dang
that'd be
it.
so cool. Can you?
No,
How old
she-
is she? Can you bottle it? Can you?
That's not a
color
bad
her?
idea. She'll never
She's
forget
young.
she was
She's too young.
blonde.
She's too young.
6, so she's 18 years, 18 months from Bear's age. So
Dolores, let's get everybody some water.
let's get
please.
it.
Where's
Dolores?
Dolores? So you have right now you have an 8, 6, and
Hank is 5.
Jolene will be 7 soon.
Did she not just? Oh, she just turned 7. I'm sorry.
Okay, so you have
Yeah.
8, 7, and 5.
Yeah, that's right.
And Bear soon will be in about
9.
Yeah, he'll be 9 soon.
Yep. So things are looking like, pretty again, like I'm not like the guy who's going out and seeking excitement in my life. I'm happy with the way things are. Now, I'll also tell you, like, my faith is growing, and again, I'm learning what it means to be like a man and a Christ follower, and it doesn't always look like what I thought it did. And
Are you going to church?
Going to church? Yep, going to church regularly. That's like, again, like if it's a rhythm in my life, I'm not going to miss it. Right?
Yeah.
We do that. I also started playing in a band, like a band that was kind of birthed out of 3 of us who were the same age, living together, also Christians, also doing this ministry, also talking about getting married, eventually getting married.
Is this the Pointy Farmer?
This is not the Pointy Farmers. Rest in peace. Those guys were great. Some of them literal rest in peace.
Oh Lord! Was it like a combine
That's the
accident?
It
problem.
was a combine accident.
That's the problem with
It's a one traffic light town, and they ran it.
That's the problem with joining bands with 80-year-old banjo players is they don't.
But damn, they're good.
Damn, he's such a good banjo player, but
We lost half the band in a tractor accident.
Also, a significant part of the population of the town. So I say that to just be like, the way that like I started living life almost looked edgier than it ever did, like pre-following Jesus, right? It's getting tattoos, playing in
rock
bands and smoky bars and stuff, and it was great. It was a blast, but it just life started looking a little bit different. So this I think is where it becomes pretty significant,
pretty dicey.
So
Yeah.
one day, this particular agency, I go and I get laid off that day. I go home and I tell Lisa, "Hey, I just got laid off." It wasn't a performance thing. It was just like they literally downsized like 40% of the company.
Yeah.
What year was this roughly? Like 2008, 2009?
No, it was later than that. It was
2000.
2013, wasn't it?
Yep, 2013.
Oh, okay.
I only remember because I had other friends that worked at that company
Oh,
during that time.
oh yeah, it was a difficult time.
It was a difficult time, and I think it was a difficult time for Cincinnati too. I mean,
Yeah, it was a bummer. It was a weird thing because it was a company full of just younger professionals that were just trying to make it, and we all kind of just went our own different ways and different paths after that. So I came home, told Lisa, "Hey, I just got laid off." We're crying, it's kind of an emotional night. We're just like,
2 kids and she's pregnant.
what are we gonna do? She's pregnant. I go to sleep that night, and then she eventually dozes off at like 12, and at 12:30 she wakes me up and says, "I'm going into labor."
So God's like, "Oh, I've got something interesting. This will be fun."
Well, Joker, here's a wild card. So we wake up the next morning, 3 kids, no job.
Nice.
Scene.
Yeah.
Scene. So she's not working.
No.
She has a degree,
Yeah.
and she's not working because she's doing the stay-at-home mom thing.
Right.
What were you doing for insurance?
Doing for insurance
I
back
think.
then.
Did you have a severance from that company?
Well, yeah, during that, so I was on a severance from that company for a little while.
And did you get you had a like
Yeah.
carryover for sure?
Yeah, that was all. I mean, when I was getting laid off in that conversation, I can remember going, wow, this is the worst timing.
Yeah,
That's
my wife's
what
about to pop out a kid.
I said that out loud, and they're like, yeah, we realize that. And little did they know 6 hours later we'd be.
Well, it's probably better for them than waiting
That's,
a couple weeks.
And that's what, years later, I'd had conversations with them after that. And that's exactly what they've said. And I was like, oh, yeah, you're right. Wait till I come back from paternity leave and you guys lay me off. That you're right. So I see it on that. So, it was definitely like an oh shit moment, right? Obviously. And so I just did the thing that made sense. And I just started I was sitting
drinking.
I was sitting in the window of
almost there.
pretty close. I was, So I was sitting in the window of the hospital room, filling out like applications while she's like nursing this newborn. I can remember that. It was
That's hot.
pretty stressful.
It's hot.
Pretty stressful.
So yeah,
I just start throwing things into like the type of work that I've been doing, agency work, whether it was like
You're searching for anything.
same, yeah. And again, I don't, it's like I don't have a degree to fall back. I don't have a particular set of skills or
And this is your
experience.
son you had? His name is
Hank.
oh,
This
okay.
is the second. This is your third child, your
Yep.
second boy.
Yep. Old Hank.
So here's my
Hank
question:
Williams.
up until this point, had Lisa used her degree? This is going to sound really bad, but had Lisa used her degree at all? She had always been stay at home.
She taught for a couple of years in our early part of our marriage before she started having kids.
Okay, yeah. So she, great.
Yeah.
And the other thing I'll say too is like we fought for the stay-at-home mom thing.
Yeah.
Neither one of us really wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And we just felt pressured like, oh, that's what you're supposed to do, and she fought it, I fought it. It was a bad match. It was like not supposed to be, we were much healthier off with both of us working. So she starts looking for jobs. I start looking for jobs. But either way, we're under some pressure, right? So
Yeah.
I'm interviewing around.
You're in a house that's 40 square feet.
It's a matchbox. Yeah.
You brought Hank home. It turned into 30 square feet.
We got no room. These aren't little kids by you. They were some monsters.
They're Quartz kids. They got big old heads.
Well, but
Lollipops.
it is interesting. You reach that point where you're having kids and you're trying to figure out this whole double work thing, income thing, and then you begin to run the numbers and you begin to see where it's actually more affordable for somebody to stay home because childcare is so expensive.
So that's exactly
unless you
right.
got an awesome grandma hanging
Right.
out or something.
Right. Yeah, of course.
So that was kind of the case. And so weirdly enough, I looked on this church's website, this church called Crossroads here in Cincinnati. They on their website they have this thing called the cork board, and it was almost like a Craigslist type thing where it's like I'm selling an old Nissan truck and I need a babysitter, and just like weird random things. There was an ad on there, and it said part-time distiller needed. No other information. Distiller.
That's a weird ad for a church to have.
Yeah.
It's weird, but it was an open forum, like anybody could post on there, right?
Yeah.
And so
Kinda cool.
it wasn't an ad for them. The church didn't need a distiller.
No, of course. Right. Yeah.
Okay. Right. Water to wine.
We're turning water to wine.
And so
I need a distiller.
Man.
He also needs to be Jewish, and he needs to be willing to die for my sins. Also, he needs to be able to change that water into wine instantly.
You talk about
if
a
you're
hard
good with
first,
an LED screen, we'll take you.
We'll take you. If you could take this water and turn it into party liquor in 2.5 seconds, you're the savior of the free world.
Wow.
So I obviously
Tough interview.
not being a distiller by any means.
You applied for the job.
I apply for the job.
Great.
And this is also this is a theme that just keeps coming back to me. So like I realize I have to work harder to like just get to a normalcy of like level setting. And then I also feel like everything that I've ever done has been like pushing me. Like I feel like God has been in my back pushing me to do things that I'm just not comfortable with.
Yeah.
I mean, you take it back to just like my middle school, high school years where it was like, I was just happy being the hillbilly kid. I didn't really want to do anything. I didn't really want to run away, but I felt like it was an inclining.
As long as you had a Mountain Dew and
that's
a
right.
TV.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
But
Well, we didn't
so
have either.
funny. Didn't have either. Because you drank all the Mountain Dew and that TV cost too
That
daggone
Mountain
much.
Dew money on.
But you've always been I'm not going to be the smartest. I'm not going to be the funniest. I'm not going to be most equipped, but I'm going to work the hardest.
And that's kind of like a mentality that I carry with my kids right now too. I don't tell them they're not the funniest, but like,
But yeah.
You're not the smartest.
Hank.
Damn,
But I mean, have you met Hank?
You may ain't got your two front teeth no too good done, but
Listen, you're
listen.
going to work your tail off.
But it is
matter.
something like even
You
if they grow up to be educated, smart, hilarious, beautiful.
You don't need any of that to be the hardest worker in the room.
Right. But if they can also be the hardest worker in the room, they should. That's
sure.
that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
And like there's no I have no, I just didn't have anything to fall back. So I was just like I had to do it. So I applied for that distiller job. I literally sent them an email. I thought, oh, this is a shot in the dark. I said, hey, my name is Chris. I've got a beard, tattoos. I work on old motorcycles. I think I'd be great for your image. And I literally sent them that email. That was
because you're coming from a different world where
my resume said like nothing to do with any of that.
You're thinking I've got to tell them I've got to sell them a story.
Yeah, so that was just it. They agreed to meet with me. I think just because it was a funny enough, ad or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, and it's funny because you did not disqualify yourself.
Sure.
So a lot of people might have said, "Hey, I have no idea how to
I've got
distill."
no distilling.
You took the
experience.
Very cool.
I think in that first interview, I said I can drink it. I don't know if about making it.
Right.
Do you think that was your thinking to respond to the ad that way?
I think part of it was just like I'm a bubbly guy, so I just thought if there was going to be something to get their attention, that might be it. Because probably 20 or 30 other assholes who don't know how to distill are applying, but if mine's at least makes them giggle, I might get my foot in the door. Right?
Yeah.
And you probably didn't. I don't know. In that situation, I wouldn't have thought that they're going to actually respond. So
Me neither.
So it's like I can really just say whatever. They're not going to respond anyway. So why not be as freaking left field as like?
It's like if I send an email to jack@jackwhite.com, I'm just shooting it out there. He's not going to answer, but maybe.
Maybe.
Well, that's so funny though, because my response would have been, "Well, I've played with chemistry sets since I was 6, and I've done this." And
I never passed chemistry in high school. My counselor eventually said, "We're just gonna." She legitimately said that.
I've blown up 3 barns.
So
I drank a lot of party liquor.
I ended up meeting with these guys, and I had at least enough smart to be like, okay, I got to set myself apart somehow, And I sold them on this idea that like, hey, they needed a product to sell. They needed somebody to distill it to make it. But what you really need is a story. And that's kind of like where that comes back in of like, I've seen startups fail. I've seen them succeed. I've seen big businesses fail and succeed all just around their story that they're trying to tell. And I was like, you need somebody to make it. You need somebody to also help you create a story around this thing, And that first week I started working for them, it was 10 hours a week, and then it was full time. It was 60 hours a week after that. Yep.
Wow.
They bit.
So let's think about that. Like you have in this situation you have no skills.
Here we go.
You've got no skills, right? The closest you've ever been to this industry is a liquor store that you're buying cheap bourbon from, and so you were just working hard to get the job. You say, hey, like,
I can work.
Yeah. So what's going on in your mind?
I legitimately thought, okay, great. If I can just do this and like make, some money and keep applying to places, then I'll do it. Great. I didn't,
So this was almost like I could do this for a few months until I find another agency job.
For sure. Something that was going to,
cool
something that somebody was going to give me like a salary again. Right.
So what I'm interested about is the moment when you're sitting there meeting with them and you're like, I know nothing about distilling. I know nothing about their business. Like, what is the spark? What is the genesis of the idea of like, I'm going to sell the shit out of them. You need a story.
I think I was like, you need a story. That's what I told them. Right. Exactly.
And you're doing this out of necessity in your mind. Right?
Oh, 100%.
So
you're scrapping. You're scrapping.
Yeah, I'm just scrapping.
Yeah. And you didn't have like 3 other jobs that you were almost going to get.
Not at all. And honestly too, like a couple years before this, I was at that job, at the agency job, not making a lot of money. And even then I realized we can't get by on what I'm making. Like we're doing the numbers. This doesn't add up. Even in that moment, that's how I got into motorcycles too. Was like, I am not a mechanic. I am not a motorcycle guy. I didn't grow up riding motorcycles. Like we didn't have one, my dad, it was just like, that was not a thing. But I one day was like, I want to own a motorcycle. I bought an old crappy 74 KZ 400. It didn't run, but I was like, I bet you I could figure out how to make this thing run, and got it
Because it was cheap.
because it was cheap.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this seems like something interesting to do. And just like, I feel like working that agency life, I still just needed to do something with my hands, And so, I bought that, I fixed it up, and I was, I just ride it around to bars. And one day somebody was like, hey, that's an old KZ 400. Doesn't run. And I was like, well, I got here on it. And they were like,
Right.
I'd buy that from you. And I was like, how much? And they were like $1,000. And I was like, sold.
Son of a gun.
Yeah,
See you
because you
later.
definitely didn't pay $1,000.
No,
for it.
I paid like $200 for it or something. And
Yeah,
and then it was just like, that was a moment where I was like, bing, I can
I
make
could be
money
do-
on
I
this.
could be doing this.
So as a side hustle, I was buying these old bikes, doing the tune-up on them that somebody had just left in a barn for 5 or 10 years and getting them running.
Yeah, which means just scraping the gunk out of the car and putting a new battery in. And,
Sometimes it was more.
well, but yeah. But it was still a pretty good hustle.
It was a
good
great little
profit.
hustle, and it was fun to do. And yeah, I think like one particular summer, I think 2012, I went through like 32 bikes or something.
Wow.
Are you a dealer?
I went through like Simon's bikes or something.
I went through like some bikes or something.
But it was
IRS, are you listening?
But it was a hustle of like, I'm going to make this work. I'm going to make some extra money for us, and that worked. So there was something about that when I went into the distilling thing where I was just like, I'll figure this out. I'll figure this out,
Sure.
if they'll let me,
Was that a part? What remind me? Was that a part of your interview process or your application? Like, I have tattoo. I know you say I have tattoos, but I ride motorcycles. I've got.
I like sent that to them initially,
Yeah.
right? Like,
I am the image you want your distillery.
that's kind of what I told them,
So
right?
you're selling them this thing like you think you don't know what you need. This is the image you need for your distiller.
And I gave them, I think in the moment I gave them a nugget too. So they were a group of 4 guys that had the money to invest into the equipment, to the licensing, and they just didn't have the money to invest into the time to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so when they did that, I think in that first initial meeting, I sold them on the idea of too, like, look, nobody else in Cincinnati is doing this right now. You guys
Right.
have the opportunity to like make liquor. We're not talking about beer. We're talking about liquor. And nobody's done that in downtown Cincinnati since Prohibition.
Yeah.
I did a moment of homework before I met with them. And I think something for them, that light went off. And I was like, this should be your backyard hometown distillery. That's what
Yeah,
this
wow,
distillery
okay.
is. And I think they were like, oh yeah. Luckily for me, they didn't just take that idea and run. But
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, they still didn't have anybody to make it. So
Yeah, right.
that sounds cool. It sounds glamorous. Oh, wow, making liquor. But in reality, what it was it was an old horse barn in Northside, Ohio, which is on the opposite end of town that I was in,
Yeah.
filled with snakes.
Love
Heat.
snakes.
Gosh, it was brutal. And those first 9 months on that job were really tough. It was by myself in that barn every day, trying to make mash, learn how to distill
mix
it,
up some mash, kill a snake,
not blow myself up.
fill up this
Like-
keg, kill a snake.
Yeah. So you
But-
basically taught yourself how to make this product that they hadn't. So these guys, and we don't
handle snakes.
right, and handle snakes. So
That
you're
part I
Pentecostal
did not
now.
do that.
So now you're Pentecostal.
That's right.
So
I
but
brought
these
some
gu-
with me.
Let's park on this for a minute. These guys, these 4 guys, they go, we want to start a business. We want to start a business, and that business is booze. They don't know how to make the booze. They don't know how to market the booze, whatever. And they bring a guy in who they think is just going to make the booze.
Who knows less?
Who knows less about making the booze. However, and then this guy creates a story for their whole company. Tell us about that. So these 4 dudes that seem to not be able to make this plan fit, and then they bring in this guy who likes motorcycles and needs money.
And believes in Jesus.
and what the
Right,
hell is that
right,
about?
exactly. Well, I think exactly. I think that was I mean, that's really just it. It was like, let me help you guys tell this story, because if it's successful, I'll be successful. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
if
yeah.
I can hustle and we can make this work, let's do it. And so it just became like, what's funny is like that barn that we distilled in, that was filled with snakes, became kind of the iconic story that we were telling of like, we are the bootstrap, because the liquor industry it's a business like anything else. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
tonight we're drinking some wild turkey. I'll tell you another story. I had lunch
We're
with,
drinking Russell's
what did I say?
Wild Turkey.
Wild
Oh,
turkey,
so
that's
say-
all right.
Same thing. though.
Same thing, right? So I had dinner with lunch with Jimmy Russell one when I was a distiller, it was pretty wild. So that their master distiller, he's like 97 years old.
And a half.
It became it became this thing. The barn kind of became the identity of like, we are your hometown distillery. We're not some huge industry that's making this somewhere. We're not some corporation. We're actually making it. I remember in the evenings. So in the day I would make it, and in the evenings I would go sell it.
Yeah.
And those guys,
Wow.
the bartenders and the bar owners that I would go and meet with, they'd be like, "Okay, so you're just like some liquor rep from some company." And I was like,
No,
I literally
made
made
this.
this today. You can see the mash on my shoes. The bottle you're holding, I made that today. Like, so that became really interesting for people too. Of like, oh, no kidding, you made this where here down in Cincinnati? What?
Yeah,
like,
okay, that's cool.
Very cool.
very wild.
How
you
did
know?
Lisa deal with that? So you're working all day, you're doing the alcohol process all day, and then at night you're a salesman. How is Lisa dealing with that with 3 kids?
I don't know. You have to ask her. I don't care.
That's a good answer.
Psych. I'm kidding.
No, I mean not that you don't care, but yeah.
No, it was stressful for everybody.
Let's call her
Let's
up.
call her. well, Lisa, why don't you come on out here?
Lisa,
Come on
hold
in
on,
here,
step
Lisa.
off your helicopter. She's been doing laps at the pawn shop.
Dolores, bring in Lisa.
Jeeves, Lisa,
Dolores.
please.
Dolores.
I mean, she. I think it was hard, but she also understood kind of the pinch that we were in. Like, we're in the hustle. We're in a hustle mentality. We have to figure it out. You know. So it was super understanding. But
And what kept you from drinking up all the profits?
Profits.
it took profits. Yeah, getting
Diapers.
getting a paycheck.
A paycheck. Yeah.
That was a question too. It was definitely interesting because like I joke around and say for the first 6 months we produced trash. I mean, just teaching myself how to distill liquor
you
out
had
of
to
corn,
taste it all.
and every time I'd be like, nope. It would take us 7 days
You
to
wouldn't
make.
throw it out though. would you?
Yes, I would.
Be honest.
Yes.
You'd
Really,
clean.
you're different. You're a
You
better
didn't,
man than
you
I
didn't
am.
take it home and clean out a
It was-
carburetor
it
on
was
the
bad.
latest motorcycle.
Yeah, that's a thing.
bad.
You can use it. You can,
Oh, I'm aware. We found an old moped in the trash in Northside, and we got it running by running some moonshine through it. True story.
wow.
We got the carburetor to get cleaned out with it.
Was it a pook?
It was a Pook.
Oh my god!
It was somebody just threw it in the garbage.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's mine. So yeah, that was, I mean, it was a wild experience. Like I said, the first 6 months, it was like experimenting with different products. And at the same time, there's so many intricacies of it. I don't know how much you guys want me to dive into it, but like to make liquor, it's not a fast thing, just to make a clear product, you're talking about 10 days. So
Wow.
I can make something, wait 10 days and be like, that's garbage, and have to dump it all and start over again. Not to mention if you're going to age it, right? You're going to put it in a barrel, it's going to be in there for at least 4 or 5 years. So it is a patient game and a lot of experimenting that I had to do.
But still, you're committed.
Yeah,
In this,
it was a
in
blast.
this crazy long process, and you're teaching yourself. You're committed. Like I'm the guy that's just going to show up and I'm going to do the work.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was hard. It was definitely hard.
Yeah.
job.
So you're making the bourbon during the day. You're selling it by night, and tell us how that goes from there. I mean,
Sure. So one of the reasons why we were able to do the distillery is some laws changed in Ohio where we could do it. Well, in the summer of 2016, Ohio changed the law where a distillery can now have a bar too. So you can also operate. You can also,
we got a few of those, and they're great.
yeah, you can make liquor and sell liquor, which seems like it should be a normal thing. That's the way a brewery operates. But a distillery, higher proof alcohol, they didn't allow that until that time.
Which is dumb.
So dumb. So we said, great, this gives us an opportunity to maybe expand a little bit, get a bigger still, go to a location where we can actually have a bar, and we moved from Northside to downtown and actually built out a bar with the distillery in the back of it. So again, we were making it out in the back and we had a bar out front. And even that in itself was like, okay, how do we keep this story? Are we still going to call it Northside Distillery, even though we're moving it to downtown? And again, that just kind of all
Right.
fed back into this idea of like, hey, our story is Northside. So like we are bringing Northside downtown. We want to bring
Yeah.
this barn, like this old horse barn downtown. So,
Which I don't know if you know this. I'm from Northside.
oh, I know it.
Yeah, I'm from Northside.
So what was it like to be part of something where you took it from zero, probably operating in the red, to something that
Yeah.
sounds like you guys are making money?
Yeah, I mean, it was. I don't know. I didn't spend a whole lot of time in the moment. Everything just has.
Was it life in the fast lane a little bit?
It definitely was fast. And like, again, with like an industry that was like kind of booming or still booming, it was like, it was something that I just didn't know very much about. I was just like getting involved in.
Did these guys become your peeps? I mean, were you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think we got pretty close. Again, they all had day jobs. I was working there by myself for the first year or so, but then I was eventually able to bring on some help and bring some friends on, and we were doing it together then, and that was a blast.
Did it become part of your identity? I mean, were you like, I'm master distiller?
So and that's the thing I want to talk about is you have this from Young Life back in the day, and this beautiful creature that convinced you to follow this black Jewish dude. Like you have this moral compass of being a Christian, and now you're a freaking
master
distiller with tattoos that flips motorcycles.
What's funny is my grandma would never, every time I would see her during the season, she would never forget to remind me, you have to make liquor.
Why is it
she would always say that. She would always say these two things. Why is it always have to make liquor?
Devil's juice.
When you were a baby, I'd pray every day that you'd grow up to be a minister. You know that?
Right.
I know, because you told me that yesterday, Nina.
Yeah, so and we'll get back to that.
But it was definitely like, again,
that's the sweetest thing.
Again, it was like an image of just like, why can't I be a Christian and make liquor and ride motorcycles?
I love that.
Because like to me, but like a part of me was like, yes, that's kind of like the one-liner I want to say, but also there are probably other people out there that are like, wait a minute, I didn't think you could be a Christian and be a distiller and have tattoos and ride motorcycles.
For sure.
That doesn't make sense. So like I wanted, I've always just wanted to like have that approachability, even though there's times where I don't want it, but like,
yeah.
But there's also
somebody out there.
But there's also like a mindset or a theme there that is you have to do all of that with a modicum of control.
For sure.
Right.
For sure. Like being a part of it, but not of it. Right.
Yeah,
and like as we joked around, like how we not drinking the product, it's like, well, of course we are. We're trying it, but
at first it was easy because it tasted like shit.
Yeah, that's right. I just assumed it tastes bad, and so let's just dump it.
Let's just dump it into my belly.
So
get in my belly.
But there was also like but we also took it serious, too. So, but if you think about that dichotomy of like when I was 16 and I was like straight laced, no beard, trim football player, vanilla guy. And then like, however many years later, I was like tatted up working in some barn in Northside making liquor. Also,
you definitely look less of a Christian than you probably did back then.
Oh, that's hopefully. Thank you. I appreciate that. But I think, and it did feel like we were doing something cool and something bigger. But to be honest with you, we were just like three dorks trying to do it, and we were just like goofing around. And when we weren't, when the stills were running, we were like in that yard of that barn playing baseball or something. Like we were just dweebs, and then people would come out and be like
dorks.
People would come out and be like, "Wow, the first distillery in Cincinnati," and we were like, "Yeah, what's up?"
There's the pot. There's the
That's
pot.
it.
That's it.
It was
So let's fast forward a little bit. So obviously things are going great at the distillery. We're moving downtown. We're expanding.
Yep.
We're building our brand, our name.
You're employing friends. You're having a good time.
Right.
You're
You're
in the parade.
And the whole story
I'll
is...
never forget. We got a contract with the Reds, and our liquor had its own bar in the stadium. To me, that was just like, holy shit, Dad, I did it.
I made it.
I did it.
Pete Rose, Chris Courts, we built the stadium.
Yeah.
We built the stadium.
Dad, you want to meet Johnny Bench?
Dude,
My name is on a brick at the stadium,
when we were like negotiating, like getting into that bar there, they like put my picture, I'll never forget this, they put my picture in the Northside logo on the LED screen. But like as if I was a baseball player, and I was like, you hook, line, and sinker.
Better believe it.
Oh God, we're in.
Dude, why is that hold on, let's just talk about that being the pinnacle in Cincinnati.
Well, for me, baseball.
Well, I think for a lot of people, because like I'm in a band here in Cincinnati, and before the pandemic, we were told by the Reds, like, hey, we like this song. Like, you guys work with this dude that handles stuff for us. He introduced us to your music. And we're going to, when there's downtime or whatever, we're not playing player music, we're playing your songs. And we're like, yeah. And then the pandemic.
Well, I think it's like Cincinnati, the baseball and Reds, it's all so huge.
I don't know. Oh my gosh.
I don't think I could. I think I'd be more excited about that if happens after this pandemic is over, if that happens, I'd be more excited about that than a freaking Grammy.
Right.
Like the freaking Cincinnati Reds. If you live in Cincinnati, why is it so
And we're not,
freaking
it's
important?
not like we're great either.
No.
But like,
But I mean,
Well, the
come
home of
on.
the Big Red Machine. I
Well-
mean, man, we were international. I mean,
Yeah.
and you talk about a town that's hungry for winning.
Okay, so listen, let's reel it in. You're expanding a lot.
we're expanding.
All
we're
of that
moving.
to say that things are going really well for Northside Distillery, and things are going okay for you. Your salary range is going up. Can you give us like a range there?
Sure. I mean, we'll call it double.
Wow.
You know,
Double. So before
Boom.
you're like 25 to 30, now you're probably sitting around 55 to 65.
So no, not other than did I like get laid off from that job, and I thought, oh man, how am I ever going to replace that income? I mean, I doubled it into a job that I feel like I just fell
It
ass
took-
into,
but-
right?
But
Yeah.
how you doubled it was you worked your ass off.
For sure. Like
Yeah,
I said, it was $10 an hour or something when I started, and
So-
we just hustled at it.
So things are going great. You're in the stadium. You got a bar. Your name is everywhere. You're expanding. You're going downtown.
And
Did you work into some ownership of the place as
for
well?
sure, for
Oh,
sure. Worked in,
nice.
yeah, I was able to
Yeah,
work into
great.
some ownership
Boom.
over time. And a lot of that, they were just like, yeah, man, you earned it. Sweat equity, dude. You're
Yeah,
pulling out
yeah.
snakes and making our liquor for us. And not only that, but like
Snake oil.
You found a cat one time.
for the
and
first,
took it
I
home?
did. I still have the cat that I found out there, Mooney. I named her Moonshine.
Yeah.
Oh, moonshine.
Okay, so you're
And the other thing too is like, not to toot
She's
my
a horrible alcoholic, by the way.
she's got to have a shot a day.
she is. We actually call her Madge.
The thing too at this time, I realized like I am in my wheelhouse for the first time in my life. I feel like
Wow.
I'm doing something
Wow, yeah.
that I was like
You feel like
born to do.
freaking Babe Ruth calling his home run. Like,
Kind of.
like come
Like-
on, baby.
Like it was bizarre. Like again, like for somebody who had like struggled with like never finding the thing that they're great at. We were just for kicks, just to say that we did it. We were like sending our liquor out to like international competitions and freaking winning. Like
Wow.
we won a platinum award in Bristol, England for our vodka.
Whoa.
And like
Blimey.
we like sent them pictures of the distillery and they were like, "Are you serious?"
What?
Whoa.
Okay, so send us some real pictures,
Right.
not this trashy
Oh.
barn.
Right.
It was legit, and
Yeah.
so things like on paper looked great. Like
Yeah,
this
for
was
sure.
this was the train. This is the career. You know. Yeah.
Well, and obviously you aren't coming to us today as a master distiller. So what happened?
Yeah, so I mean, I think long story short, you know, as we expanded, we brought on more ownership, more management, and well, I would say more ownership from people that wanted to be more managers, you know. And I think ultimately it just came down to like we had a different opinion on like the story of Northside at that point. It was going in a different direction. They were wanting it to move in a direction I just did not want it to go. And I didn't feel like worked with our identity, you know.
Sure.
It was like not the story. And then I think even beyond that, even before I started looking, you know, to maybe move on, people even in the industry were like, "What's going on downtown? What are you guys doing? Like that doesn't seem like something you guys that seems way out of your out of
You
character."
started pretty
you know?
grassroots, and now you're expanding to this thing. It's like,
And then you're making hand lotion.
Yeah, yeah.
So let's back up a little bit. You started, and you are basically
Yeah, when we started distilling, you know, our whole thing was like we're the Cincinnati backyard distillery, like
yeah.
from grassroots. The slogan that we picked up on really early on was from grain to glass is what we used to say.
Okay,
Okay,
yeah. And so
Nicholas,
how do
yeah.
you keep that? How's that sustainable when you have a bar downtown or when you have a new distillery downtown and you have a freaking bar in the Red Stadium? How do you keep up with the grain to glass and
Yeah.
and how did that evolve? Is that
It was less about keeping up, but like once you start getting into the business of distilling, you find out ways to cut margin pretty easily.
Cost.
with anything?
With anything, and that's fine. And there's plenty of distilleries out there that do that, and that's great. And I used to have a different opinion on it, and now I'm just like, that's a business like anything else. It makes sense. But like, if our whole thing was like, we are your neighborhood distillery, we do things grain to glass. That meant I wasn't really willing to waver on sourcing liquor. I didn't really want to like
Right.
buy it
'Cause it's
from a
not-
producer.
It's not
and
your liquor.
It's not our liquor. We can't say grain to glass. We can't say this vodka won a platinum award because that's not what we're selling anymore. You know,
Right,
and
you're selling someone else's vodka, and your name is on every bottle at this point.
exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
And even for fun and just out of pride, we would like take out bottles out of like a case that was going to be shipped out, and we would just sign them. Just for somebody out there, it would be like, wow, they actually signed
that's
this
cool.
bottle,
So,
So we started
but-
to lose some of that, and that's kind of where it was like,
But wouldn't you say would you say there's a natural progression for a company to all of a sudden create a brand? The brand's pretty successful. It's getting some identity, and you want to create more.
sure, there is,
Right.
and I think the argument I would have posed at the time is like, we can do that, we can make more, not for as cheap as another option. So we have to. There's a fork in the road right here. We either are going to say we want to move more for cheaper or move more for not as cheap. And like as business guys on paper, of course, what are you going to do?
Right.
Right.
But
Well-
as a creative, you were kind of seeing that as a creative person and as a guy who was crafting this, it was kind of time for you to move on.
Exactly.
For them to succeed in doing what they needed to do, and for you to succeed in your conscience and what you believe in and things like that, like
Right.
it was time to move on. So what was the next step for that?
Well, when you come to the fork in the road, you take it.
right.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Like
And think about it this way too. Again, it's just a rhythmic thing that's happening. Hopefully, it's not happening anymore in my life, where it's just like presented with like an opportunity, and it's like, are you doing it or not?
like when your parents, like when you were in 6th grade.
Parents divorce, or taking a agency job, or getting laid off, or all these things were just kind of like, it was hard not to just say yes to, because we've seen the track record.
There were these like different existential or other things happening in your life that kind of you couldn't control, that kind of forces it. Like when your parents divorced, and
Right.
then you couldn't control that, but then you had to make a decision. You couldn't control that you got laid off and your wife went into labor, but then you had to make a decision.
yeah.
And at this point, like you can't control what they're doing, but you've got to make a decision. So what happens?
I feel lucky that I feel like the story that is being told through me is like, as much as I wanted to just be like the plain vanilla guy and not ruffle feathers or be rebellious or anything like that, that's not the story that is meant for me. You know what I mean? So like, I would have been happy working construction, living in Bethel, finding a home out there, you know what I mean? And could have just lived that life and died and been a happy person, but that's not what was supposed to be the trajectory for me. So it
Right.
just, after so many times of seeing that, you just know when it's like, oh, okay, this is my off ramp. I'm supposed to go this way. I don't know what it's going to be, but let's do it.
Dan, as we continue to connect with Chris, we're beginning to see some things that could really derail someone. But instead, we see Chris creating a setting of adventure and growth. So hopefully you, our listeners, can tune in to our next episode where we see Chris make some brave decisions in his life and for his family that brings him to a place that is in phase.